All right, let's get started. Let's see, make sure all my stuff is over here. All right, everybody, welcome. Very excited to be back here for the Nervous Ghost Press Open Mic, Episode 3, Revenge of the Ghost. I hope you are all happy, healthy, and warm. My name is Matthew Mejia, the CEO, publisher at Nervous Ghost Press, and I am very excited to have the panel of speakers that we have today. A very intimate group today. Very excited, hopeful, and beautiful. We are proud to be able to share, work with the world. Hopefully, if the world is out there, if you're tuning in, we're glad that you're here. We welcome you. And as always, everyone is welcome to join these events, no matter where you live, where you're from, where you're going, or who you are. We want your voices, we want your stories, we want your passion and your art. One thing about Nervous Ghost Press that I am forever advocated to and that I promise is that we stand up for you. And if you feel like you're alone, you're not. If you feel like you have no place, you have one. And no matter what, you can send us an email and I'll reply. And you can reach out to me. You can reach out to us. You can join these things. You can cry on camera. You can shake and scream and all these other emotions. And then afterwards, you can tell yourself, holy smokes, I was scared of that. That was awesome. Hey, when's the next one? Every third Saturday of every month. And we'll be here. I'll be here pretty soon. We'll be in person, but we're not going to lose the internet aspect of this. We're going to have a computer set up, even if you're not wherever the location is that will be, you can still join us. And so one thing about our transition into the virtual world is that it allowed us to connect with other countries, other cultures, other people from far and distant places. And I don't want to lose that. And we're always going to work with whatever technology is available to the best of our abilities. Nervous Ghost Press is a independent press, and we publish all types of art from all types of people. Our main ideology is writing saves lives, and we believe it. We felt it. We've seen it. We've heard it. And everything that I do while I'm here is in the pursuit of community, unity, and healing through art. Because art brings us together. It silences anger. And it teaches us that there's more to us than what we're told and what sometimes we often believe. Today's episode is called Revenge of the Ghost, because Star Wars Episode 3, I thought that was kind of funny. But also, as I think about Revenge of the Ghost, and I asked myself, who are these ghosts? And when I think about Nervous Ghost Press, what is the ghost besides the ghost in us? The ghosts of our childhood, of our experiences now, before, and in the future. And one thing about writing is that writing does not seek revenge. And art doesn't try and haunt us and hurt us and guilt trip us. Art is there for us to use as a tool to decide when and if we're ready, while we're ready, and maybe we never will be, but someday hopefully we're gonna be. And writing lets us use those ghosts and that idea of revenge and turn it into something beautiful and turn in those ugly and scary moments into something we can hold, trust, and respect for forever. Hopefully, right? That's kind of the point and the goal. You can join us, of course, every third Saturday. Let me show the screen here just so you can see it. Nervous Ghost Live on YouTube. like and subscribe, comment, all the other stuff everybody on YouTube has to say. I think I'm not sure exactly how it works, but comment for our Q&A at the end. We always have a very nice Q&A where the writers, the artists, all of us can speak with each other. We can learn things about one another that maybe we would have never known. We enjoy your questions. We very much like to hear from you and respond in very cool ways, very in-depth sometimes, and we have fun. So make sure towards the end, I'll remind us in the comment section. I'll let us know, hey, we're coming up on the Q&A. Ask us questions, and feel free to join our community. You can also reach us on our social media accounts, which are, where are they? Here we go. Nervous Ghost Press on Instagram, nervous_ghost on Twitter, Nervous Ghost Press Facebook, and YouTube Nervous Ghost Live. You can email us at ghost@nervousghostpress.com, www.nervousghostpress.org, where you can find these cool notebooks where you can write down who your ghost is, what your ghost is, where your ghosts live, and how you're going to beat them or join them. There's also Writing for Life, our first title, an anthology. Amazing work in there. Buy it, read it, share it. And next time, come on here and join us. So I'm going to share 2 poems with you before I kick it off to our speakers this evening. One of the first poem is from a friend of mine who has graciously allowed me to read it for them. And next event, hopefully they'll be here and they'll read it themselves. But it's always an honor to share work from those who are close to us, those that matter, those that mean something, and to bring you all into that world. Before that, I do want to give a shout out to Ghost Dennis, our editor-in-chief, Ghost Brian, and Ghost K, the Nervous Ghost Press team, without whom I'd have less hair on my head, you know. And so I appreciate all of them always. Anything worth holding on to. Lately, it seems I've lost inspiration. It feels like it's miles away. I sleep through the day and then cry through the night. It takes effort to find. I don't have the strength sometimes. I'm holding on to what's still left of me. When the life you had planned slowly slips through your hands, when you feel like you just slept through all the best years of your life, when you can't find your way, when each day ends the same, when you've lost the fight inside of you, is there anything worth holding on to? It's hard to be strong when weakness is stronger. I'm a prisoner in my own skin. There are dreams I've let die that I just pushed aside. I need to find out how to turn this dark into light. When the warmth disappears, when it's been one of those years, when you're running through the truth because, well, you're scared of what you might find when your heart's beyond repair, when you wake and no one's there, when your home is missing the 2 hearts you lost. Is there anything worth holding on to? Maybe tomorrow my heart will reawaken and I can find what I've been searching for. But today I'm not tired of running out of strength. All I know is that I can't live like this. I must find what is worth holding on to. When you're so far lost in thoughts, when you've lost all signs of hope, when you're searching for, but it feels so far away, when the words disappear and the melody is unclear, what is worth holding on to? So thank you to my friend. Love it. Next time, hear it from your face, because there is magic in hearing the words from the person that wrote them, and the strength and the passion and everything else that goes into it. And let me share my poem before I hand it off to our first speaker and get the real party started. Why remember them in fire? Feet move faster in the cold. In silence, fires aren't the way back. No smoke signals, not this time. There wouldn't be anything left to burn or destroy if not for generations and gravestones built by hope. What's coming is something worth trauma, something worth nightmares. Coyotes follow the weak to bathe in the strength of walking through blisters and bare bones, bloodied with the someday it'll be all right. Someday. Not once will those dreams die. Survived in blood, in smiles and children's laughter, let them be monsters and dragons in space. No need to breathe, there's enough. Why remember them in fire? The revolution's begun. Build the mausoleums with the bodies of the damned, souls without redemption, harvest thoughts and stack them tall. Nothing gets through, nothing gets through. It is deserved. It is wanted and wanting. The streets will run red with the streets. It's a message generations in the making for this moment beyond all else. What has been and will be is fool's gold picked and mined with mindless advocation, born by and raised from lies. Why remember them in fire? The land is poisoned, waiting to be cultivated into anger, hatred, and the abandonment of visions of fortune. A platitude believed to be destiny, a legacy tainted with now, no longer is the longest term necessary. It's quick, and oh so quickly it is forgotten. The reason, the struggle, standing defiantly so against the sky, with hands only, not stopped, not yet. There's something more. Is it this? Whole with graces, utter confusion and resolve, the wind carries what cannot be lifted, and what will not be smothered burns brighter than whatever pretense and message painted on walls and in skulls. Sacrifices are not yet wasted. The edge creeps closer. The ruining temptations of violence with petty violins orchestrating a way home. Listen, controlled without purpose. Listen to the falling leaves sing. Listen to the snow crisp and cured. It is not over. An elemental detriment, a hollowed out body with upside down eyes is not the future, not yet. It ends here. From these hands, wounds healed by dust, and with what cause? Foot after foot held out, not gave up. And yet, and so why? Why remember them in fire? All right, so we have a great lineup today. New faces, old faces, strange faces, cool faces, fun faces, never boring faces. Our first reader, we have David.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm going to read a couple of poems I wrote. This one I wrote just recently, and then the other one I wrote about a year ago. It's a bit older. So this one is called All I Want Is Love, and this is how it goes. All I want is love. How much does it cost? All I want is love. Without it, I feel lost. I go everywhere, but I feel like I'm from nowhere. I don't sleep right. I'm up until 4 a.m. every night. They say you need to love yourself before you can love someone else, but may they never tell you how. To love oneself, what does that even mean? Pain and dread are all that I've seen. How much is enough? I don't know. Doing everything alone is tough. I don't know if I'll ever be loved, but I'll tell you what. If you love me and I love you, I will die for you, lie for you, kill for you, steal for you, take my life for you, and try for you. Will you do the same? Okay? So that is the first poem. And then this other poem, it's a bit older. It's called The Demon That Lives Inside Me. And here's how that goes. So it goes, a long, dark twig reaches far into my soul. The root stems from where? I do not know. Ugly hands hold me tight. Hands not of mother or lover, but of devil and degenerate. Pray for nothing, still pray. So sluggish, so slow, energy levels plummet below. Daily catastrophe, but no one else knows. Heart screams for help, breathing like bellows. Nothing can save me from myself. A monster, a feeling, a demon. reality twisted, consumed by the dark, and light just seems like a joke. If heaven is real, I need it now because the demon wants to kill me until nothing I feel. And that's what I got for today.
All right, thank you, David. You know, your first poem and that second one also reminded me of something in class this week. You know, we spoke about communication and how to be an effective communicator. And I kept trying to like rack my, oh man, how am I going to talk about being an effective communicator? I hated communicating, it made me cry all the time. It was horrible. But that line, you know, they never tell us how to love us. So you have to, you know, look in here. We don't know how yet. And, you know, part of it where we have to become super great communicators, and yet we don't even know what we sound like. And how are we supposed to find our voice if we don't even hear it? How are we supposed to find our love if we don't know what our love feels like? And I think that's a great way to really illustrate that point in your poems and in your words. So thank you, David. Appreciate having you. Good to see you. All right, up next, we got Alberto.
Y'all hear me good? Sorry, because I'm just outside, so I'm not sure if like you can hear me.
You're good.
Anyway, can you see me now still? I'm on my phone right now, so I'm never really zoom on my phone. So.
No, you disappeared.
I did?
Yep.
All right, but you can still hear me, right?
We can hear you. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah, because I just have it on my notes. I didn't have it on the piece of paper. Anyway, so I just have one poem today. It's called Dispensa. And yeah, I'm scared to go out ever since that day. It was like any other Saturday night. Only this time I was robbed of my innocence. Even though I'm a man, I'm still scared. I wish I could crawl back inside you, where you can protect me from the world. I please kill them all. I want to see them fall. Y'all deserve to burn in hell. I take these OXY pills to forget this lake of fire. Yet when I sober it up, it all comes back to me. What's the point of living to die anyway? Only to be forgotten by the whole world, except for you, Hefa, will be the only one. Hefa, I love you no matter what. If you're the first woman I ever fell in love with, you'll be the last woman I ever loved. All the sleepless nights I put you through, you should have never experienced that. Coming home at 3 a.m. with a bloody mouth, that's something a mother should never see. Por mi culpa, por mi culpa, por mi gran culpa. Madre mía, perdóname. Hefa, love me no matter what. I'm the first man you've ever loved. I'll be the last man you'll ever love. And that's that.
Thank you, Alberto. One of the most enjoyable part, you know, I've heard you a few times here and there, not too often, of course, is I think I said last time too, is that the passion comes through.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. You know, the hard part is not only acknowledging the emotions, putting it on paper, and then letting it come through our faces, you know, with that edge, with the sharpness, with the points. And apart from your piece that struck me and stuck with me is kind of the idea of legacies and being forgotten. And oftentimes we are the legacy, you know, good or bad, but there's power in it, and there's power in being able to put it into what you did. And I hope that you continue and keep it up. And thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your work.
Yeah, so like real quick minute about the poem, because I'm probably have to leave in like 10 minutes. So I won't have to like explain anything later on. So I wrote this poem on Mother's Day. I was listening to Heart Shaped Box, and I like the line where he says, I wish I could crawl back into your hymen. And I was like, I like that line. I don't know why, but I do. So that's why I wrote the line where it says, I wish I could crawl back inside you, mom, like Hefa. And yeah. And for those of you who don't speak Spanish, Hefa is like mother. It's a slang term for calling a mom mother. And kind of like, it's also another term for boss. And then like, because my mom's name is Maria, and I put por mi culpa, por mi culpa, por mi gran culpa. That's like it's a very Catholic, it's a Catholic prayer that you always say to like the Virgin Mary or the Virgin de Guadalupe. So kind of little stuff I did there about religion and kind of my upbringing. And when you said about how I put passion to that, most of the stuff I write, 99% of it is all real. there's some things that are not real where I talk about like other people or stuff, but most of it's all real that I've been through and that I'm going through. And yeah, that's why like I have that passion in me, and that's why when I say the words, you know, I speak it because it's mine. So yeah.
Absolutely. And shout out to all the moms who make everybody feel safe, and all the mother figures and the parental figures and the guardians that we have in our lives that give us the strength to share work that comes from the scary parts inside of our bodies. All right, thank you, Alberto. Up next, we have Rachel.
Hello. Today I'll be reading one poem of mine titled One Day. One day you're gonna want to know my heart. One day it's gonna be too late. One day you're gonna miss your chance. And that one day you come back, I'll say, remember that one time I wasn't your type? One day you'll just be a character in my story and someone I no longer know. Because one day is now and one day will forever be lost the way I just witnessed that abandoned black feather disappear from my life.
All right, thank you, Rachel. I really enjoy short poems because there's so much in them so quickly, and it's important. And the words, they carry more strength, they carry more meaning. And even though it's one day, it's all days and forever days and yesterdays and tomorrows and everything else, and next month and next year and the year before that. And there's a lot of power in it to make those the words to acknowledge those things. I got a mush brain today. And, you know, it gives off really some boss ass bitch vibes. Tell somebody, hey man, no, not today. And so thank you, Rachel. Appreciate it that you're here. All right, up next, we have Giovanni.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks, Matthew. Thanks. It was great hearing David and Alberto and Rachel. Thanks for sharing your work tonight. I'm tuning in with a photo. I'm on like a small iPad with weird light, so obviously that's what's happening. I'm reading some poems. So these don't really need a preface, but I like using poems to talk about things. I got married a year ago, right before the pandemic. So I lucked out as far as getting in before everything shut down. And thanks. And I've been thinking a lot about what that means and what that feels to me. And I've suddenly cropped up all these poems about marriage and my life now, and me and my wife. And I'm going to read two of those. All right. This one's called Marriage. It would be easier to not know how to trace all of this, I imagine. Blush, sky trenches our star sets red as fresh grease. But those among us that have traded half of all the light that would have entered them, like the dream of a cave, for statistical certainties might actually guess what that last flavor in their mouth will be. I did not lick the yellow guava smashed and amassing the innocence of jelly on the sidewalk. I only stepped directly on top of one by accident. Again, a wave of salivation coats my tongue and my teeth. A chain link fence at waist height in the grip of this guava mother's shade, and my hand scatters calmly between my wife's fingers. behind my marriage's back. But the whole moment might as well have popped between all four of my serrated front teeth. When she fucks me in the yolk of the day, broken open again, I can still taste it all. And this other one is called We Are Each Other's, and it's after a Gwendolyn Brooks poem called Paul Robeson. I've been thinking a lot about her work right now, especially given that shortly after, I don't know, in this time period for me, pandemic hit, uprisings hit. For anyone who's familiar with that poem, you might, see what I mean by some of this. All right, it's called We Are Each Other's. She's twisting her hair, so I know the moon is showing us how to be. Spray bottle diligently wheezing clouds through her threads, and a beer in her lap would only start to spill on my bare foot. I'm sorry, she says, laughing. I'm ashamed. Now everything is sort of wet. Her thick patterns continue to overlap. Fingers dabbing sealant, two becoming soft as how will soon be splayed. This business of us, this harvest of us, and this generation of braids, and what Gwendolyn printed eternally as magnitude and bond, protects us tonight. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Giovanni. Congratulations on getting married. That's awesome.
Thanks.
The line "A Dream of a Cave," I don't know, that stuck with me, and the images of food, and just all of them together. We are each other's, and I could really feel and sense the emotion and the love and the deep, deep, deep care that you both have for each other. And I'm not married, but you make it sound dope. So thank you, Giovanni.
Thanks, Matthew.
All right, before I introduce our next speaker, I do want to share a little bit just about community and what community means, and having people that we've never met, or we've met through these events or through readings or other open mics and other kind of literary world things over the years. And it really is so perfect and beautiful that we can get people who have nothing in common. Maybe we're totally different. We come from different worlds. We communicate through computer screens and other, space instruments. And yet always we're together and we're unified. We're unified with a love of art, a love with words, a love of putting ourselves in these vulnerable situations and coming out a little bit dirtier, but also stronger, a little uglier, but with more gravitas. And so I just wanted to continue to always push and share that we here at Nervous Ghost Press are always, always advocating for our communities. We live there, we stand up, we sit down, we lay down, whatever we need to do. And everybody is welcome. And so let me introduce our next speaker tonight, Stuart.
Thanks, Matthew, and thank you everyone for reading so well. It's been awesome so far. Yeah, Matthew, if you weren't gonna shout out that Dream of the Cave line, I was gonna do that. That's an awesome line. I'm gonna start out reading the little piece I have in this anthology that Matthew put out, Writing for Life, an anthology. It's a beautiful book. Amanda Gores has some great poems. She's going to be reading a little bit later in here. My piece is for me the shortest piece. I think of it as a piece of hint fiction, even though it's kind of lineated, almost like an E.E. Cummings poem. It's called Ripped from the Headlines. After he'd finished, I felt smaller than a bruise. That's the piece. that I have in this book. You should get this anthology if you haven't gotten it. There's some beautiful, beautiful writing in here. Matthew was talking about Ghosts. Revenge of the Ghosts is the name of this reading tonight. One ghost that's been speaking through me at various times in the past year or so is the ghost of Pat Nixon, the wife of Richard Nixon. From her, she's been speaking to me from this kind of a purgatory of sadness and loss, I think, that she's currently existing in. So a number of poems have come to me in her voice. Poems with titles like Pat Nixon in the Confessional, Pat Nixon at the Dentist, Pat Nixon Dreams of Dancing at a Strip Club, and this is maybe the latest one in her voice, Pat Nixon's Questions to the Wildflowers. What is this willfulness that spools outside the joy of autumn's suffering? These arthritic fists of Queen Anne's lace, unlike any I have known. This bee so busy with what seems a swelling sack around its hind legs, stepping so lightly among the last blossom. I detect destruction here, unlike Dick, who withers inwardly, unlike Dick, who withers alone. Is to thunder forth to fulminate, is to fumigate, to disinfect, to purify. Oh, fulsome grimace that comes from sharing, must it all be so ergo, so ecru, so much a tattered echo of each? Matthew talks beautifully, eloquently, wisely about community. And I'm so moved with the way how he talks about his opening remarks were just beautiful. I thought I'd share a piece about the first sort of writers community that I felt a part of way back in the 1970s. A little memoir about a place called Beyond Baroque in Venice, California. Probably one of the reasons because so many of you are on the West Coast. This is from a longer piece, a little section from a longer piece called Winter Counts, the 1970s Stories from the Odd Years. Winter counts are oral calendars that the indigenous people in the plains, mainly in the plains, kept. And so I've been struck with the idea of personal winter counts, sort of a oral history of each year, where you sort of in the original winter counts there'd be a pictogram, signifying an event in a particular year. So I've been picking a year and then writing, what sort of a little memoir about what I remember of that year. So in Winter Counts in 1970s, Stories from the Odd Years, I covered stories from the odd years of the 70s, 71, 73, 75, and this is 1977, called The Writer. There's a couple of reference here, a reference to a boy named Andy, a boy I was intimate with in high school, John Doe, who hung out at Beyond Baroque in those days. He met Exene Chervanka there, and they shortly after they started the band X, which became pretty well known for a while. The rest, I think, is explained. 1977, The Writer. What first struck me about Jim Crusoe were his fingers. Like Andy's, his were long and delicate, not like guitarists have, like the rock star John Doe on the cusp of his fame then, who hung out like I did at the Tuesday evening public poetry workshops at the Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center in Venice. No, Jim didn't have muscular fingers like that. His were much more thin and deft. Beyond Baroque has since located to a more commodious space in a reconverted fire station on Venice Boulevard. But the old Beyond Baroque was housed in a squat, square, two-story house that its founder, George Drury Smith, used to own on what was then called Washington Street, about a block east of a dive bar called The Brig, memorable in part for its neon sign that sported a picture a boxer who looked like Rocky Marciano. You'd park your car and follow a driveway that led to a courtyard out back where Chinese-style lanterns hung from a bamboo fence. You stepped inside a slider door and found yourself in a scratched linoleum-floored room that couldn't have been larger than 14 feet by 14 feet. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves ringed it, filled almost to sagging with volumes of poetry and literary magazines. Creaky metal folding chairs were set up in a layered half circle, with the center reserved for the evening's workshop leader. Sometimes it was Jack Grapes, an actor who also ran Bomb Shelter Press. He was a jovial, roundish man who had the gift of being both funny and insightful in his comments. Sometimes the workshop leader was Frances Dean Smith, a sweet white-haired woman whom I was told had once been married to Charles Bukowski. She was quieter in her comments, but always, almost to a fault, generous. Every third week, Jim led the workshop. Spare, tall, elegant, Jim sat facing us in his folding chair, his head tilted as he listened as someone read his or her poem. Sometimes his eyes closed as he listened. Sometimes from his work shirt pocket, he'd take out a pack of zigzag rolling papers, followed by a bulging packet of bugle tobacco. He'd sprinkle a thin line of bugle on one of the zigzags that he had spread out on the lap of his Levi's. Then with those deft fingers, he gently twisted until it was a wrinkled white grub of a cigarette tapered at both ends. We'd still be listening to the poem or to the responses to the poem from the group of us as he stroked one of the ends in and out of his mouth. When Jim finally responded, he might say something like, "Your poem is like a clear glass of water that has been set on the mantelpiece as the afternoon sun slants through the window so that a rainbow fills the glass with light." Like some sort of Zen koan that we had to figure out. I don't think most of us knew what Jim was talking about when he said stuff like that, at least not at first. I know I didn't. I didn't much care. Jim gave up his offerings with such encouragement that I couldn't help but love him. Yes, I love Jack's talky, wacky, wisecracking style so much like his poems. I loved Frances's earnest generosity, but Jim was the first serious writer that I was acquainted with in the flesh, whom I really wanted to emulate. The first writer I knew who said, when asked if he wanted to go out with the gang afterwards for coffee at the Jolly Tiger, "No, I'm sorry, I have work to do." Jim Crusoe is a wonderful writer, great poet, and great novelist too. So he's a writer you should check out if you can. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Stuart. Always happy to have you. And it is true. I think Stuart's poem in here is the shortest, but certainly carries so much strength. And you can read it, and you can read all the other ones. www.nervousghostpress.org, www.nervousghostpress.org. You could also find your handy journals. You can write everything in them, recipes, better recipes, and then the final recipe, because you know how recipes go. The thing about community and what Stuart was reminding me of is our communities, our writing communities, educational communities are everywhere. They can be everywhere. They can be anyone. They can be anything, especially when you least expect it. And to our educational community members, I want to express our deepest congratulations. You're done. You did it. You walk across that virtual stage. I can't move the thing on here, but congratulations to the class of 2021. All of us are proud of all of you for sticking through, not only through 2020, but again for the first 5 months of this year as we're coming back. We're getting our legs under us again, and we're really showing, and we see it. We see the strength in all of you to persevere through every adversity that we faced, and to finish something, for many being the first, and to show that strength, to show that that oomph and to say, this is mine. You earned it. It is yours. Enjoy it. Go to sleep happy. Rest your heavy head on a soft pillow and wake up tomorrow stronger, with bigger eyes, better dreams. And I hope that you can be here with us too. Whoever's out there that just graduated, hop on, email us, ghost@nervousghostpress.org. Join us. And now our next speaker, Kristen.
Getting that unmute going. Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen. I'm not doing poetry. I'm doing fiction because I don't write poetry. I don't think I'm qualified. So let me bring this up. If I can. Okay, so this is a short piece. It's a little tiny bit longer than flash fiction. It's called 5 in 1. I was 17 when my mother finally kicked that son of a bitch Pedro out of the house. There was some indication he was my dad, although no one outright said so. I always thought we had the same eyes. He liked avocados with salt and lemon. I did too. For all I know, he was one of those uncles, not uncles, or some twice felon she met at the courthouse. Who cares? That same day, I discovered my true talent. I could stick 5 hot dogs in my mouth at once. At the time, it seemed a significant accomplishment. It wasn't like I had practiced or routine or anything. One photo on my Finsta was all it took. All I wrote was 5 hot dogs, bitches. Hashtag hot dog life. Hashtag Oscar Mayer is my BFF. Hashtag no mustard. Hashtag 5 in 1. I was trying to make my little brother laugh. Hashtag no mustard was his brilliant idea. Get it? No must-tard. He was 12. No más tarde. You had to be there. It was one of those Sunday afternoons when the sea haze made the light appear grayish blue. My neighborhood was peaceful, and even the seagulls refrained from their usual commentary. Pedro was gone. He'd taken all his shit. The Xbox went, his iguana, aptly named Iggy, and all the miscellaneous lizard paraphernalia, a black trash bag full of clothes, 2 pairs of mud-encrusted sneakers, and a gold lighter that had belonged to my grandpa. He took the Thigh Master. No one used it, but that wasn't the point. It wasn't his to take. Mom was out when Pedro left, or she hadn't come home from the night before, another bachelorette party or all-night baby shower. She went to a lot of those. To be fair, Mom was only 32 at the time. We could have been sisters. She sometimes told people we were. Pedro had packed his shit, and my little brother was looking gloomy over a soggy bowl of Lucky Charms. The internet hadn't been paid again, and I had this great idea, hot dogs. 1 hot dog like a cigar, Danny, that's my brother, he didn't laugh. 2 like walrus tusks, he didn't even look up. 3, he cracked a smile, and I just kept stuffing them in. I sputtered laughter, and one went flying across the room like a rocket. We were dying. Before I knew it, we were snapping photos, adding filters, and Danny said, "You're hilarious," and I posted it to Instagram to seal the deal. Danny and I were losing it. He was on the threadbare carpet, holding his belly, tears streaming down his cherry cheeks, gripped with laughter. It wasn't like I knew what I was doing or had a plan or anything. I found a pack of hot dogs duct taped to my locker the next day. At lunch, someone threw one at me in the quad. It missed, but I got the hint. Some girl passed me in the hall and said, "You little slut," and said it in kind of a winking way, like she was proud of me. I was baffled when someone else came to my defense and said, "No slut shaming." I stood at the bus stop holding my books like a riot shield and watched the road for the 483 that would emerge from the marine layer and take me home. Mom would hear about the hot dog thing. I didn't like to disappoint people. "Hey, hot dogs," I heard. "Shut the fuck up, fuckface," I replied mid-pivot. My heart went bananas when I saw Harlan, captain of the debate team, class treasurer, pretty good at track, decent in calculus, even better at doing flips and stuff with a skateboard. The added emphasis I attached to fuckface was received with an expression of wonder and amusement. "Damn, Carla," he said, impressed with my linguistic acuity. "You need a ride?" He lazily gestured to his father's Oldsmobile, a rusted piece of crap that bobbed like a rowboat on the marina. Go put his hot dog in your mouth, someone muttered as the brakes of the 483 squealed and hissed. The accordion doors shushed and clapped open. I looked Harlan in the eyes and said, "What?" As if I'd had enough. I didn't have time. I was in a hurry. Important matters to attend to, you know. You want to ride or what? He asked again. Harlan grinned. He wasn't not handsome. Not in that Timothy Chalamet way or anyway. But he had a nice smile, and I sensed he wasn't being a jerk, or maybe he didn't mean it. I felt a drop of remorse for being brusque. In that piece of shit, I replied, as if I was too good for a 1990s Oldsmobile that was a hand-me-down when his father got it. It's practically a horse and carriage without the horse, I added to cap off my disapproval. Better than walking, he said, and lifted his chin to the 483 departing without me and disappearing into the mist. No one liked sticking around school longer than they had to. The parking lot was empty and Harlan was smiling at me. It would take me an hour to walk home, or I could ride with Harlan and everyone would think I gave him a blowjob for the privilege. Pass, I replied, turned, tucked my books under my arm and walked. Moments later, his car raced by like a fishing boat fleeing the Coast Guard, spewing exhaust. A precarious sound of metal clacking like a playing card in a bicycle spoke faded, gradual through the humidity. Density, temperature, moisture. I walked until it got dark and I was far beyond my house and the weeds for grass and the screen door hanging on one bent hinge. Pedro said he'd fix it one day. Past where my brother, no longer able to play Grand Theft Auto, probably starving to death and couldn't figure out how to make mac and cheese. Or he'd eaten all the Lucky Charms out of the box dry because there was no more milk. I thought about Danny as I walked. I used to worry about who he'd become with Pedro around, and now I worried about who he'd become without him. I wouldn't call what I was having an emotional crisis or anything. I'd had worse days. It all felt matter of fact, like the footnotes of my biology book. I only wanted to walk. Cold sweat rose from my core. I was in front of the discount movie theater when the blister on my baby toe ignited. A printed tarp that read "Dollar Movies every Saturday at 11 a.m., not p.m., was lit by a grimy halogen security lamp. Half a dozen brown moths chased the light and collided into the glass. For what? A chance to shine or maybe leave this world for something brighter. My calves ached. I sat on the cold grass patch in front of the theater that smelled dimly of dog piss. Sparrows rustled in the palm trees. I called an Uber using the gift card I'd gotten for Christmas from my tia gorda. She wasn't my real aunt. She'd gotten it in exchange for sitting through an hour-long presentation for a timeshare in Indio. She went to a new one every weekend. She never did buy into the timeshares, but she got coupons for free meals at the Red Robin and random gift cards she doled out on birthdays and holidays. I still hadn't used the Home Depot card she gave me for my 9th birthday. The Chem Lab odor of acrid buttered popcorn drifted on the low tide zephyr as I mindlessly tossed palm nuts onto the pavement. I casually scrolled to Harlan's Instagram and the now infamous photo of me, uncooked hot dogs crammed in my gaping maw, my lips freakishly stretched like Goya's Satan devouring his own son. Harlan had scrawled "prude" on the image. Even though I was hurt, my irrelevant social standing was secure. The Uber slowed as the driver scanned. I hailed the car and double-tapped Harlan's condemnation, already liked by 23 of my classmates, now 24. Kids called me hot dogs for a while, but I just kind of rolled with it. I laughed when they laughed, and eventually it dissolved from their goldfish memories. I had my college scholarship applications in, and if those didn't pan out, I could do 2 years at the JC on financial aid and then transfer out. I knew anecdotally that Harlan would be at the JC with an eye on a generic business degree. Carla, the driver verified. My friends call me hot dogs, I replied. Do I even want to know? She chuckled. Nah, I went viral is all. Back in my day, going viral meant you had mononucleosis. She twisted the steering wheel, eyes on the road ahead, a quick glance in the rearview mirror, where her smiling eyes met my bewilderment. Not for her joke, which was kind of funny, but it was this big sense of everything in the world. As I buckled the seatbelt, I worried about Danny being all alone. A fleeting look at the moths under the security lamp, and I wondered why nature hadn't told them it was futile. Maybe they knew something I didn't. Mom would find some new father, not father type who promised to fix screen doors and never would. Danny had 5 years to go. I wanted him to go to college. Someone had to take care of him. I fixated on the opposing LED headlights on the road home that made sprightly apparitions in my vision. I wondered if they sold Thigh Masters at the Home Depot. The end.
Thank you, Kristen. You know, the cool part about stories, and such a great voice, by the way, is of all the important factors of family and what makes a family and the core of really who we are, the biggest thing that I remember is the hot dogs. And, you know, one of my best friend's favorite food is hot dogs. And we were talking about cooking and barbecuing and, you know, doing fancy stuff. And it was, all right, so what do you want to cook? Hot dogs. I'm like, no, okay, but literally anything. And it was hot dogs. But that's the cool part about and make connection, and what's important is it's just these simple things that mean so much and that have such an impact, either good or bad, on all of us. And also that Goya painting, you know, used to give me nightmares when the first time I saw it. It's wild. But, you know, I want to hear what's next. Make another one. You know, do it.
Can you make a part two of hot dogs?
Absolutely.
Hot dogs revenge.
That'd be amazing. All right. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Matthew.
All right. Up next, we have Brenda.
Hi, guys. I'm Brenda. I'm going to read 2 poems today. The first one is titled Untitled. Unfinished poems and unfinished songs, unspoken words and dreams that didn't belong. There's a corner in my mind where these thoughts go to die. Like a cliff, get too close and then it's bye-bye. This abyss feels like its own little spiral. Things get sucked in and then there's no revival. What's the matter with this brain of mine? Why can't I find those unfinished lines? Why can't this corner fall into itself and just disappear? Then I'll be back, I'll be self. Soon the cliff starts to widen and nothing can stay. Not even the faces of people encountered each day. The darkness looms larger now, then swoops in fast. And now this is life. The darkness is vast. And there lies the tragedy of unfinished things, unspoken words and unfurnished dreams, floating about in the abyss. Who knows where they go? If they'll ever be found again, no one will know. So that's the first one. Second one, this one's called I Hope Your Flowers Bloom. I hope your flowers bloom so that when you walk into a room, you can hold your head high. I hope your flowers bloom and that you never stop dreaming under the twinkling night sky. I hope your flowers bloom so that you won't ever be afraid to stand up and show them why. I hope your flowers bloom and that the person you are becoming is enough to satisfy. I hope your flowers bloom so that you step out of your cocoon and transform into that butterfly. I hope your flowers bloom and that one day you will see the way your petals still glow under the moonlit sky. I hope your flowers bloom, and when they do, you'll see that no one can deny the beauty of the space that you have justly occupied.
All right. Thank you, Brenda. You know, we have untitled, unfinished, unspoken, and there's so much that when words are not said, there's so much still to be heard and to be felt. And like I think it was in the Iliad with the silence of Ajax, and how much silence can carry power and meaning and all these other things, and then followed by a poem that I feel was about hope, where the first poem is, everything is unspoken, unfinished, and then, but there's hope that you will finish and bloom and achieve these dreams and become, the flower that, hopefully it blooms for longer than one of those flowers that only blooms for a day. I never really understood those. That kind of sucks for that flower. But I'm not a flowerologist over here. And, putting those two poems together, I think was really, had a successful, it was a success. And I just really enjoy as we communicate here, all of us, we share, we read, and we listen to the pauses and the silences, and what's unfinished and what's not said is just as important, just as powerful, just as beautiful as what is touched up, finished, structured, and formed, and made all pretty. So thank you very much, Brenda. All right, and now our final speaker of this evening before we head into our super fun and communal Q&A, where we all get to hang out, ask questions, not answer questions, sometimes maybe answer some questions. And so comment, ask us questions, text me, email us, tag us on our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and of course here at Nervous Ghost Live. And so to take us into the next section of our event here is Amanda.
Hello. So the two poems I have to read today are for Mental Health Awareness Month. This can be a tricky month for me because I have bipolar, and often in these conversations about mental health, people with bipolar or schizophrenia are kind of left out because we're considered too crazy, or we're scary, or people think we're going to be violent. So we're kind of just left out of the conversation, and that makes me sad. But I wrote some poems to kind of give visibility as a woman with bipolar, because especially in conversations, if there are any about bipolar or schizophrenia, it's usually bipolar or schizophrenic men. So with that being said, the first poem is called Mad Pride. Hand-fed daily bitter ritual, swallow the reminder that you're sick. Maybe if you do this enough times, they'll untie your hands, free your razor-prone fingers. Now you bleed on the page, and it's art, and it's beautiful, and it's inspirational, but they don't like the words etched in your skin. It's jagged and puffy and looks too much like it still hurts years after the wound was crafted. They jack up your prescription, shove pills in your mouth, cover your face, make you gag them down. They tell you you can refuse, but you know if you do, 5150 becomes 5250, becomes 5350, becomes abandoned, becomes arrested, becomes years of your life wasted because you just wouldn't get it together. And if you just recite enough inspirational quotes, just color enough mandalas, you'll be stable. But we know better, don't we? We cackle till we cry when the tower comes crashing, colliding with familial bystanders who leave because a bit of dust got in their eye and they couldn't take the tears and hysterics. We remove them from the foundation as we rebuild, cleansing toxins from the potions we're brewing. Perfecting chaos and making it art is the maddest thing we do, and God, we are mad. And the second poem I have is from Writing for Life, the anthology. Get it now. Time capsule. It is in the deer's eyes. It is in the thoughts that pass by with their lights on high beam. It is with me locked in the bathroom, escaping mild conflicts and disagreements. It is in the classroom pointing out failures. It is in the bedroom picking inadequacies and putting them to trial without a lawyer. It is in the kitchen trying to decide if it should eat, and if it does, what, and if it does, will it keep it down, and if it does, will it feel regret, and if it does, then what? It is in the tub, scrubbing, pink, trying to get clean at last. It is not in the past. It is the reason I fear my womb. It is the reason I pick my zits so deep I have a dent in my nose. It is in the backyard getting drunk or high. It doesn't care or matter because the end result is always the same. It is in the one too many trazodone pills I took last night that gave me knocked out nightmare future seeings I couldn't stop. It is in dehydrated, unbrushed coffee breath. It is in the half-chewed essays I submit. It is in hypomanic fits, masturbating through 6 orgasms, crying out for imaginary lovers, swiftly followed by the crushing remembrance of my 23-year-old virginity. It is dryly wondering how many recycled pill bottles I have contributed in the past 5 years of this. It is warning my roommates I'm bad again because I don't want them to be afraid of me. It is not having a plan for after graduation because I didn't think I'd make it this far. It's a miracle people tell me I'm high functioning. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And thank you for working with us and bringing awareness to mental health. It's, often overlooked, and it's something that we all need to work together to really, protect and work through a lot of, what goes on these days, especially with being so far apart and also too close together sometimes with our, technology. So thank you, Amanda. Bleed on the page and then etched on skin. I was like, oh man, I wrote damn on my notes. And also what I think captures a lot of what we're doing here is perfecting chaos into art. And it's as true when you say it, when I hear it, when we speak it. And I really hope that we can continue every single month, every third Saturday, to grow, unite with art, to turn all the chaos in the world into something positive we can wear on our faces, our sleeves, our backs, in our pockets, and in our shoes, and everywhere else. So thank you, Amanda. And so now I'm going to bring everybody's faces on the screen at the same time so we can have our super fun Q&A. I have the first question, and it is open to anybody and everybody. It's kind of a weird question. I thought of it, the other day, and I don't really have an answer for it myself. And so I'm using this as a way to cheat to find an answer. But the question is, what do you see when you write? And I have no idea how to answer it, so I'm using you to to calm my own mind.
I usually see just either an idea or a feeling. I mean, at least that's for me. I mean, most of my poems, it's usually ideas or feelings. So there's that.
I see. I think before I start kind of to put anything down, whatever it is that I'm trying to express, I see it as like a kind of like a movie. And then I'm like, whoa, like what was that? How can I express that on a piece of paper? And like what word oh, the thesaurus, where's the thesaurus? Like I start like, damn, like I feel that, and I want the reader to, or whoever reads this, to feel that. So I see that kind of like a movie playing. I'm like, this, that. And then it comes together for me like that.
I think for me, I see an opportunity to kind of put into ink how I felt, to kind of give it a sense of this actually happened and I felt this way at one time, and that like it exists and it is valid because it exists on the page in the dark ink.
I wonder if the better question is not so much what do you see, but what do you hear? So often cadence, or it's a rhythm that sets you off, whether in prose or poetry.
Definitely. And sounds are so important. And I think also kind of what a lot of you said, where Brenda, you have to kind of capture it and put it into ink, and then the sounds also, where are you going to put it? You got to put it in the Nervous Ghost Press Journal, available at www.nervousghostpress.org, because this paper, pretty good paper, and it'll carry the weight of the sounds, of the words, the sharpness and the dullness, the spice, and if it's bland, all of it, because it's yours. And so one other question that I always try and answer, and it kind of gets to this part of us, the inside, the stuff we don't want anyone to see. We only show them what we write, because if we wrote everything, now you got me, right? You win. You have the tools to unscrew my body. That's not going to happen. But so how do you become confident enough and aware enough so that in your writing you can give just enough of that vulnerability and tenderness and just enough emotion to where that chaos does become beauty, that pain does become something safe and sound and productive, instead of something that rips at us from the inside, makes us hurt more when we're just sitting by ourselves, makes us cry just because the sky was not the shade of blue we wanted it to be that day. How do you, as the individual, the writer, decide or practice or fail 1,000 times, and then you get to a point where, I'm going to put it on this paper. F you if you don't like it. This is mine. My voice is important because it's mine. You either like it or you don't. Or do you just say, universe, take the wheel?
Something I think about. Oh, sorry, man. Something I think about that I come back to, that I don't know. I don't know if I even do this that often. I'm not aware of it if I am, because I think if I try to be aware of it, I usually end up, maybe it backfires. But that thing that I'm talking about, well, instead of just speaking vaguely about it, one of my favorite poets and a teacher of mine, Robin Cost Lewis, I'm paraphrasing something I heard her say one time, which was basically like, in poetry, I want to trigger you, but I want to then provide a space for us to heal. And it's kind of I thought it was just a really bold thing to say, especially around the language that is used about the do's and don'ts of being aware of a space and being sensitive to what a trigger could be for somebody and all these things. And the idea that when we make art or poetry that resonates with us, it's often because
it triggers us in some way. But there's it's because, you know, there's this level of vulnerability, right? Essentially. So I don't know. I think about that, you know, what does it mean to trigger and heal, you know, not just go for healing, not just go for triggering, whatever. What is that relationship? So that's kind of on my mind.
That's a great question. And yeah, I think it's really telling and important to address. You know, there was one time I went somewhere and I think it was a poster I made or something, and someone was just like, hey, you know what, maybe this could be over here. And for whatever reason, I like lost it. And we almost fought. I was yelling at this dude. Like, we were going back and forth just over nothing. And then, you know, I'm home and I was like, okay, I guess that was a thing for me, apparently. Like, well, I got to figure this out. Yeah. But the idea of, you know, not only just acknowledging the healing process, but what gets under our skin and what makes us pissed off and angry and sad, I think is equally important. And so to be inspired by Giovanna, I guess the next question could be, you know, do you actively try to write about something that's going to make you want to punch people in the face or break things or, you know, tip over an aquarium just because, you know, why not? Or do you sit down and try and write and say, you know what, I want to feel better, or this thing is stuck in my head, I got to get it out. And then maybe you just kind of end up at that door and just, I guess I'll open it. Or sometimes you sit down with the intention, you're going to walk down the spiral staircase into the concrete dungeon, find that steel door, open it, and then, you know, see who's home.
I think it's, for me personally, it's like a mixture of all of those things. You know, it's like maybe one day I'm feeling great. And I'm like, ooh, okay. I don't need, well, maybe I should write about this. You know, this doesn't happen often. But other times I think, like you said, going down that, you know, opening that steel door, that's the scary part. And that's where the realness lives. That's where, you know, the places that we as people don't talk about. And so as, you know, writers, I mean, this is just, you know, something that I think personally as writers, like to be able to connect, because people feel that way. They're just never going to tell you, you know. So if they read something and they can connect with, you know, somebody went to that vulnerable space and somebody said it, it's just like, whoa, you went down there, so now I'm going to go down there too. Kind of like what Giovanna said, you know, you trigger me. And so now that you're giving me a space to heal, because you're showing me my trigger too. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my take anyway.
I remember a couple of years ago, the poet Ann Townsend came to my class at Ohio State, and I asked the students to ask her questions and pass out little cards, but I gave her a card too to ask a question to us. And her question to us was, what are you most afraid to write about? That's what you write.
When it comes to like poetry or art or anything, I always enjoy having an element of honesty in what I write, because I feel like there's a more natural element to it when I'm just, you know, honest about how I'm feeling, or if I'm honest, if I think a certain idea is out there I think is pretty cool and I want to talk about it or something, you know. I feel like the most progress is definitely made with honesty. I don't really know if there's maybe a level where you'd say, okay, I should maybe just hold back a little bit. I tend to try to push as far as I can, and if something feels like maybe it's a little too much, usually I'll cut back then.
Definitely. I think My work is very honest and vulnerable, I think, as you've seen tonight. And for me, it's kind of like I have all of these thoughts and feelings about things, and I used to share them with people in my life, and they were like, this is maybe more of you than we really want to know. But if you put it on the page, then it's art. And for me, I think art can be so connecting when you are that vulnerable and honest and just like really explicit, because it connects to people, to who they are in the dark when no one else is around, and the thoughts they have that they don't share. And I think that in itself can be healing. It can be triggering as well. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I think there can be healing in being safely triggered, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And you know what? I think that brings us to the close almost. All this talk of connection and honesty and being genuine. A great way to connect with people who also share maybe these perspectives, or at least sharing some weird, messed up, I want to put myself in the dark place to write stuff because somehow that makes sense, is here. Nervous Ghost Press on Instagram, Nervous Ghost Twitter, Nervous Ghost Press Facebook, and all of our videos are uploaded to our Nervous Ghost Press YouTube channel, Nervous Ghost Live. I would like to take a moment to thank everyone. Remind you that our next open mic is in June, on June 19th, the third Saturday of June. The following one, I think, is July 17th, the third Saturday of July. It's always the third Saturday of every month. We'll be here. I'll be here, even if it's just me. But email us, ghost@nervousghostpress.com. Sign up, and anybody is always welcome, regardless of your genre, regardless of your art. You can be a scientist. I would always love to see, and this is kind of not my dream, but a hope, is to have someone come up here and just straight up explain to us a really, really, really complicated equation, either in the sciences, math, physics, whatever it is. Show the proofs. I hated math, but I liked the proofs because it was the one part of math that actually made sense, because this is here because of this reason. And you go into, science classrooms, the equations on the walls, that's art. Dancing, writing, microscopic images, architecture, engineering, diagrams, and everything else. So join us. This space is open, always caring, and you have a home if you need it. We're not going anywhere. And so thank you, everybody. Congratulations, class of 2021. Once again, you made it. Everybody is proud of you. The world is rooting for you. And to everybody watching, we'll see you